see the outside, but white lies turn to purple elephants. How many times will I have to tell you it? I hope you know how to live with it, cause it's not going away. Don't try it on, don't try it on. White lies turn to purple elephants. Don't try, you'll become irrelevant. You can't train a purple elephant, give it a name and try to lock it away. But how can I take you seriously? You live with purple elephants. You think I'm being dramatic, it's the habit that'll drive you away. Yeah.
Hello there, and you are there, and I am here, and this is Killin Time, episode 29.
What do you guys want to talk about?
So today, what do we talk about? Well, there's one thing that stands out. Sandra Leans done a live update on her YouTube channel where she gave reasoning for a lot of things that have been happening recently with the civil war, as I've been calling it, between the different factions of Luke's army. So I want to take a little look at the video that Sandra made, the update she made, some of the claims that she made, which don't make any sense, and it's just like shaky keys, look at the keys, look at the keys. So I'm going to have a couple of looks, a couple of things there, and as I say, but things, as usual, she manages to contradict herself in her own update, so we'll have a wee look at those and just some of the other things as well and what's been said about it. But yeah, let's start. The thing is, I would like to kind of go chronologically through the video, but that means it'll probably drag out a little bit too much, and it's not easy to track the contradiction if we do it that way, so we'll ping back and forth through this. But if you do want to see everything in context, obviously she has the video on her channel. You can listen to her lies in real time.
Good evening. It's been a while. On the 25th of April this year, 2024, I left the Luke Mitchell case for good. And in the 6 months since then, I've said nothing. I didn't think there was anything to be said. I didn't want to distract from the campaign or any of the work that was being done on the case. So I had nothing to say. But the way things have developed, especially in the last couple of months, I'm speaking today because I believe that the loyal supporters, and I mean the supporters who would have done anything to help in this case, the people who went out with stickers and leaflets and posters and t-shirts and hoodies to try and encourage conversations, the people who shared all the podcasts and interviews, the ones who gave out books and got conversations going with people about that did all of that to raise awareness and to bring more and more people on board. To those supporters, I believe I should at least offer an explanation rather than some of the nonsense that is currently floating around the internet. Okay.
But it's important to put this right at the start as well, because I do want to make a point in saying this language that's used by Sandra Leans has a very specific purpose. Now remember, Sandra Leans is qualified in hypnotherapy. She knows how to twist things. I've read things, and I can go back if we really need to where she had put up what was basically instructions on how to gaslight someone, but she accused other people of doing it. Well, she wrote everything there, every single pattern that she follows and everything that she does. The old classic throwing up shit at the wall, basically, like I've said before. So let's make a point of noticing here this language, the softly language, the loyal supporters, they deserve an explanation. They haven't ever, up to this point, explained absolutely nothing else that's went on or went wrong or you've been proven to be lying about. But we'll give you an explanation for this one because people are making her look bad on the internet and they see them more often because they follow those groups. Don't follow my page, they don't follow my YouTube, they follow these groups. So she has to badmouth and besmirch. But remember, she didn't want to detract from the campaign. So for the next little bit, there is quite an exposition dump by Sandra Leans explaining how it came to be that she had left the campaign. I'll let her explain it. I will cut little bits here and there where I just kind of cut the fat off it, just so it can be a little bit shorter, otherwise we'll be here all day. But I do want you all to know something before you go into watching this. So at the time, Sandra Leans will explain some dates here, April 24th, etc, etc. Now, that would have been just around about the time that one of my videos went out on the 26th, which went a wee bit more in depth into the civil war between the different members of the campaign. And there was one video before that also, which again, just to put up in Front Street, everyone said that, it wasn't happening and I was reading into things too much, and look where we are. So the video that came before that as well would have also talked about the fact that the admins had started to source, or knew that they could source, the transcripts after being lied to by Sandra Leans. And that's an important part of context which is missing from all of this. Just before the kind of end of Sandra's reign within the campaign came the truths that she was lying about transcripts, etc, etc. So let's just put that there, but let's listen to what Sandra Leans has to say about why she left the campaign. I will leave it to herself.
I'll take you back to when it started. It was the 24th of April and I was sent footage of a conversation between the admins of what was then one of the main groups, and I was horrified. They were utterly disrespectful, in particular towards two people who have worked really hard on Luke's behalf. One of them is a miscarriage of justice himself, and he and his family have been incredibly supportive in trying to help Luke and the case. The way they referred to that person in that conversation was disgusting. I have no other word for it. It was disgusting. They admit in that conversation that they are completely ignoring a post that I've put out in the group about 2 new podcasts that are coming up. So these were things that had been planned for a while, but as you know, sometimes they take a while to come around. And I just put a message out saying that was them done. And the admins were ignoring it on the basis that they thought I should not be doing podcasts anymore. And that on the basis that Luke had told me 6 months previously to can it with the public stuff. Well, he didn't, but that's what they believed. And as a result, they were being extremely derogatory about the fact that I'd put out a post about these 2 podcasts. There was also a part of this conversation where Gemma is telling the others that Luke's going to call me that day and he's going to have words with me and he's going to... So it sounds like, I'm going to get told off about something here, something that's bothering Luke. The problem we have there is by the time I got that footage, the call with Luke had already happened earlier that afternoon. And we talked about, it was quite a long conversation, we talked about what could go forward with the case, what couldn't go forward with the case. We talked about ordinary stuff, we had a couple of laughs. At no point did Luke give any indication that he was unhappy with anything that I was doing? Nothing.
So there's a lot there to take in. I would like to point out that's the first time that Sandra's name dropped Gemma there, which surprising, but there we go. She'll go on to name drop everybody and throw them under the bus, so spoilers. But anyway, you'll notice that she paints a very dark picture for the people that she had around her, that she decided were her helpers, so to speak, and the people she aligned with. Not a very good judge of character. There's a lot of comments in this update where you could say, but you were the one that trusted them to do that stuff. So it's kind of like your own downfall. The two brute. We'll go way back to one of my old videos there. But yeah, painting a picture in terms, do we class people as actual miscarriages of justice? Do you know, say they would suffer from a but anyway, that's a small point. We're sidetracked. The painting of the campaign now and the people that are there as bad folks, would I argue with it? I mean, is it possible that they led a coup from the start where the other ex-admins that were turfed out, some of the ones that spoke to us obviously had issues, so was that the plan from the start? Probably. Does it make any real difference? No. Sandra should have had some form of control, but she didn't, and she got turfed by the people she trusted. There's no real sympathy for that. There is sympathy for one thing, by the way. I hope you're sitting down, so we'll get there and we'll get to that bit. But anyway, but yeah, painting them out to be evil and twisted is a strange kind of thing to do when you're still backing innocence for Luke Mitchell. And actually, again, let's put this right up here. Remember, we don't want to detract from the campaign, but here we are in this video stating that the people that are round about them, and Luke, by the way, let's not let that subtext get lost in all of this. There's a lot of things where essentially Luke's lying. Now, is Luke Mitchell lying to Gemma? Is Luke Mitchell lying to Sandra? Who knows? But at the end of the day, there's a lie somewhere, and that's what Sandra Leans is saying, but not saying out loud. Well, there's a lot of examples of it. And that I'm going to show how that actually had an effect on people that followed the campaign as well. Again, we don't want to detract from the campaign, but that's exactly what this is doing, and for a reason. And we'll go into all that as well. At the end of the day, to now try and separate yourself from the campaign that you built with the people that you trusted to be in those positions is crazy. And I love the story of telling how they had treated the miscarriage of justice, the nameless person, with the disgusting. That's how we're saying that now. But again, it's just this whole, we'll paint a story before we even get into her answering the questions. So she's already set you up for where she's going. Clever, but absolutely transparent. At the end of the day, some of this is probably true, but who do you trust now? And I've asked a lot of people to reconcile this, but they can't. What they'll do is just ignore it altogether. But someone here, they'll use every person's opinions and evidence, see that in big bunny ears there, but not address the fact that none of them trust each other and they call each other liars and bullies. Even Sandra now calling Luke a liar. It's absolutely insane. Now, as I say, I won't play all this video and then just comment on each bit because we'll be here all day, but Sandra goes on to explain how Gemma had made a visit to her house where she'd explained that she was going to see Luke that day, asking Sandra not to make any rash decisions about leaving the campaign until she got a chance to speak to Luke. And Sandra said, you know, she was out as far as she was concerned, unless Gemma could come back and give some good explanation as to what had went on. Now, I don't know how that explanation was to work exactly, because how are we explaining, you know, the what do you call it? Sorry, the bad language, the disgusting language that was used about the guy, the miscarriage of justice, the nameless. So as I say, I don't know how they were going to get any explanation in terms of that. I think obviously exploration in terms of what Luke was going to speak to her about and all that kind of stuff. But as I say, I'm not going to put that all in here because it's long-winded, and it's just Sandra and a little pity party, to be honest, trying to paint these folk out to be one like evil entity. However, there is one little bit that I want to point out into all, which is again this whole idea of these people are so bad and, you know, they can't be trusted. Sandra does state in something here that she had trust in Gemma. So let's listen to that one little bit.
With her. She was trying to pretend that she didn't know she was supposed to come back that afternoon. But she's got the key to my house in her hand. Now, I gave her this key back in April because of an incident back then. I gave her the key to my house in case she ever needed to get to a place of safety. So whether I was here or not, she could get into my house. She had this key in her hand that day and said, I suppose you want this back.
There we go. So she trusted this person as much as to give her a key to her own house. Now, this whole 180 here, are we meant to believe that she's a bad judge of character? Is that not a bad look, considering what kind of line of work she's in and what she's doing? There's a lot of like things that don't really add up in all this, eh? Anyone else seen it? Because if she's so bad and everybody's such a liar and so backstabbing, which again, it looks like they are. I mean, I'm not going to argue with that. But if that's the case, you trusted them with a key to your house. Yeah? This does not make sense.
It doesn't make any sense. I wish there was sense. Where did all this sense go?
Also in here though, she does get an explanation for why Luke didn't explain anything on the phone. And I will let her say it in her own words. And I will point out again, one more time, that she does not want to detract from the campaign. And she firmly believes in Luke Mitchell. But right now, she is throwing him and the campaign under the bus. She didn't want to detract. Again, why did she make this video? This is absolutely insane.
During that conversation, she told me that the reason Luke hadn't said anything in the phone call on the 24th of April was because he was too angry. He's too angry to tell me how angry he is. He's too angry to tell me he's got concerns. In fact, he's so angry, the only thing he can do is have an absolutely normal conversation, a few laughs, and make no mention of any concerns. Rubbish. But that was what was attempted to be fed to me 2 weeks after that initial conversation with Gemma.
The insanity does not stop there. You could write this down and take it to a publisher and they would say no. But the next bit, I'm going to let Sandra again say in her own words, and
so nearly 3 months had passed since that second visit from Gemma. And I get another message from Gemma, and this time she wants me to support her with a complaint to the police about another supporter. I absolutely refused. I was like, look at the situation here. A Luke Mitchell supporter wants another Luke Mitchell supporter to take a complaint to the police about another Luke Mitchell supporter. That is nonsense. And I absolutely refused. Just not happening.
I have no idea who Gemma wanted to raise any actions against that was a Luke Mitchell supporter. I do find it strange that it's round about the same time my video was released and there was voice notes that were given. Maybe that's just me being a bit speculative, who knows. But Sandra refused to do it. Now come on, let's look at this. They're backstabbing each other. they're doing like insurrections, so to speak, and they're trying to take each other to at least get some kind of police intervention or some kind of complaint. I have no idea. It is absolutely fucking insane. I don't know how anybody can have any faith in any of these people that are involved in this. Listen to these stories. Listen to the way they behave. I've showed you the way Sandra talks as well in DMs about Scott Forbes. I mean, none of them, absolutely none of them, have any credibility or indeed any loyalty by the look of it. So the loyal supporters can get some kind of explanation as what goes on. And basically, it's that inside the campaign, there's no fucking loyalty. My God, but it doesn't even stop there. Carry on.
Not happening. And that, it appears, is the straw that broke the camel's back. Because just a few days later, Luke wrote me a letter. And there's this list of demands and another list of accusations, and an instruction, not a request, an instruction that I get some stuff together and have it ready for a specific date at a specific time, because somebody is coming to my house on that date at that time. One person. I was peeved. I'm not going to deny it. No, do you have anything on that day? Are you busy that day? Will you be home that? No, you will be there with that stuff on that day. So I put the letter back in the envelope and sent it back. No comment. On that date, now to let you understand, back in January, Gemma and Nicola had collected all the case papers and taken them off to be scanned. They also had 2 scanners that were bought from the funds, plus my own high-speed scanner, which they took with them, and a bunch of USB sticks to scan the files onto. So they had most of the stuff anyway.
So this is the thing we were speaking about a couple of videos ago, and it was handily explained to us by Stuart, the guy who had parkoured over the wall, the V, and fell. The parkour guy.
Parkour!
So he was explaining what had happened here. Now, Sandra does go on to say that it was a PA system, a couple of things that she had to hand over. I do want to play the next bit though, because this is the one bit where I find myself actually agreeing with Sandra Leans. Yeah, so I'll let her explain, but essentially the whole setup for this, and I said at the time as well, is just wrong. So I will let her explain the antics, so to speak, and I think before we go into it, it's basic bullying. There's a lot of things. I don't understand why you would do most of the behaviours other than to scare a woman, really, to be honest with you. And I think that kind of shows the group up for more of what they were supposed to be her friend, and look how quickly it turned. Look how quickly that all turned. Again, Mr. Ledger.
When the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other.
So let's listen to how the exchange went down from Sandra Leans' perspective, not the perspective that Mr. Parkour gave us, and see what you think.
So I was watching from my bedroom window. 2 cars pull in the car park. One goes to one side, one goes to the other. I've no idea how many people were in the cars, but 3 people got out. Rachel and Gemma came up and round to my door, but Fiona got out in the car park and started filming. She's filming my neighbours' gates and gardens, she's filmed the alleys, she filmed up and round to where my doors are, filmed the other neighbours, and then she doubled back and she's hiding behind my gate filming through the slats, presumably hoping to catch whatever interaction there was between me and the two that were on my doorstep. That I was not happy about. The fact that there were 3 of them, the fact that they were filming, and the fact that they were clearly filming all the routes to my house. I was not happy with that at all. So I said through the intercom,
I am I, the great and powerful.
everything you're entitled to have is on the path. Take it, leave, and don't come back. And Gemma's response was, everything we're entitled to have, with or without a court order. So there we are, 21 years down the line. There's where we're at.
For me, that is absolutely ridiculous. You can't be acting like that. Filming people's houses, filming different ways into the house, filming them in secret. Absolutely ridiculous. Honestly, it's just insane. Don't get me wrong, absolutely, I know what people will be shouting at it as well. Sandra Leans condoned behaviour like this, or not even condoned it, but she brought people in to do it. She even admits that Scott Forbes stalked and harassed people. He's made threats about outing everybody, interviewing them and filming them and whatnot as well. And just like here, it's not acceptable to threaten people with stuff like that just because you can't answer to a question in Scott's respect. But in this one, I don't even know why they were filming. But the reality is, and I will say here as well, you don't go and harass these people. You can listen to what goes on and what happens as well without then taking it upon yourself to think you're fucking Batman. At the end of the day, I don't know if Scott thinks he's more like fucking Doberman man than anything else.
My internal systems have analysed his speech patterns.
And what did they tell you?
He's a total dick in a heel.
But this video is not about Scott, so I mean, it's really not this one at all. So let's fucking ignore that goon for a while. As I say, this is just not acceptable behaviour. Absolutely not. And anyone that thinks it is just ridiculous. The means justify the kind of ends in that sense, and it should never be that way, especially if what you're supposed to be involved with is a miscarriage of justice, because that makes absolutely no sense. However, let's move on for that. There's a couple of other things to cover in here, especially more related to what Sandra Leans says about the new figureheads for the campaign, which I think anyone out there who's still on the fence or is still supporting Luke and supporting these groups, you might want to listen to Sandra's claims about the people who are running said campaign. So we'll jump forward a little bit. We will cover other stuff that's in between, but it's especially one thing. But we'll jump forward a little bit and keep on the subject to the people that are running the campaign right now, because she does go off tangent. Well, not off tangent, she answers some other things and then gets back onto them one by one, name dropping every single one of them. So let's start with Rachel.
But now we get on to the stuff that they started putting out on the internet, which is just untrue. I'm going to start with Rachel's embarrassing and dishonest explanation for my absence. She started off by saying that, there had been concerns for a long time. Concerns that nobody had mentioned. They were just sort of swirling around in the ether, apparently. And then Luke had to write to me because he'd had no contact from me after I told his friends in April that I was out. No. Everybody, Luke included, knew on the 25th of April that I was out, and they knew why I was out. I can't just pick up the phone and speak to Luke. He calls me, and he has not called me since the 24th of April. So the idea that he suddenly wrote to me in on the 1st of August because he hadn't heard from me for a while is nonsense. Absolute nonsense. That letter came on the back of my refusal to back Gemma with her police complaint. So please, Rachel, if you're gonna tell stories, get the facts right.
Now, there you go. So Rachel is a liar. Rachel's one of the campaign figureheads now, and that's Sandra Leans saying that she's a liar. So what does Sandra Leans have to say about the other figurehead, Nicola?
Nicola approached podcasters who had done interviews with me but hadn't put them out yet, to warn them that they might want to think about whether to put these out because of what she said was, that Luke had withdrawn permission for me to work on or speak about his case because there had been a massive breach of trust in that I had lied about the work that I was doing on his case. She also put out that nothing had moved forward since 2014. Let's get a couple of things straight here. First and foremost, nobody, and I don't care who they are, nobody tells me what I can and can't say. Okay? We'll get that one straight. As for the nothing being done and lying about what had been done, I have proof, documented proof, back to May 2015 of everything I've done and who I've spoken to and what I've dealt with, just everything. And I can prove it all the way back to 2015. Can Nicola back her claims? No, she can't.
So she's trying to get Sandra Leans' podcasts not aired because of this whole trust issue. Because obviously Luke had said that she was to can the public stuff, I think, maybe. But yeah, I think that's funny, yeah. So Luke's own campaign are campaigning to have Sandra Leans' podcast appearances not aired. Right? Not aired. So what does that mean? That she's not a professional? But they're still going to use her stuff? Still going to use the work that she's made? Any of this making fucking sense to anyone right now? Right. This one is nameless. I do think, though, she's talking about Mr. Parkour. Because he shared the contents of the letter on a post with me. I'll put up a couple of tweets. Just going through what the mandate was and all the rest of it. So let's listen to that.
They also used a loyal supporter to put out a post about what was in Luke's letter and what I'm supposed to have known and what I was supposed to have done and everything else. How would a supporter have known what was in that letter? Or what I was supposed to have known or done? Or that was just, they didn't want to put their own names to it. And so they used a loyal supporter to put that information out, again, to try and undermine my position.
So yes, I think that one's about Stuart and a loyal support, another loyal supporter. It's funny, she surrounds herself with all these vulnerable, easily led people. Lastly, however, Fiona. Let's have a little listen to see what Sandra had to say about Fiona. Bear in mind, remember, these are the people that represent Luke Mitchell now.
Finally, Fiona's running about telling people that I'm an alcoholic because I often drink wine in the evenings so that I can switch off and get some sleep. Classy, Fiona. Classy. But the irony that they're putting out all the stuff and they have not a scrap of evidence. But I do. So, I don't know what they were hoping to achieve with all this. I was out. That's what they wanted. They wanted me out. I was out.
Just when I thought I was out, They pull me back in.
I don't know why they had to keep it going the way they did, but in September I received another letter from Luke, which I also sent back, and things then ramped up to a new level.
You'll notice at no point did Sandra Lean address Gemma herself. Now, she told a lot of stories about Gemma, so I suppose she probably covered that, didn't she? Or maybe she just didn't want to address her publicly. Who knows? Maybe the other ladies are easy targets. That's what I think. But I think she's scared of Gemma. That's, remember, the same Gemma who threatened to set Jane Hamilton on fire. The same Gemma that threatened to mow down any fucker that got in the way of what they were doing for her friend Luke, and then mowed down the fuckers that she was protecting. That one. So yeah, there's nothing in terms of that there, but there you go. So the figureheads are all liars, bullies, they're all manipulators. There is no positive thing said about this whole thing, the whole campaign and the figureheads now. None by Sandra. Now remember, she doesn't want to detract from the case. However, she is pointing out that Luke is a liar, that Gemma is a liar, that Fiona is a liar, and Nicola and Rachel. So that's all the people who are lying about her and about everything else. One of them is the person that's supposed to be telling the truth about being innocent of murder. So how can anybody in this group be trusted? Please, somebody, explain it to me. Before we go any further, I think it's important as well to point out that this has affected the support for Luke Mitchell. And the whole idea of not detracting from the case and all the rest of it, right away, it's not. This is for saving face and for keeping the cult of personality up. And it shows in some of the comments. So, just a quick sample of them. You're an amazing woman. Silly man Luke. And the rest of them ragging Dr. Sandra Lean. He will never get out, poor man. I think that you're a star and I'm leaving the group behind. Or Sandra. I think that's supposed to be our Sandra. No, Dr. Sandra, sorry. Wonder Woman, apparently. Someone else saying, sorry to hear this, Sandra. I am not a supporter anymore. Someone else saying, Luke should be ashamed of himself, treating you like this. Another one, I'm finished now, Sandra. None of us know nothing now. Another one, I find it hard to continue being a supporter in the case. I used to believe 100% Luke's word. Now I'm not sure. He's been sneaky and conniving since he got Fiona to post a letter on your group, then denied he sent it. So there's a lot of things in terms, you see there, people actively saying that they are done supporting Luke Mitchell. So the idea that she's not detracting from the case or she's not want to cause any problems, they can foresee this happening? No? There's just 5 comments, but there's obviously going to be people that don't comment as well. And at the end of the day, what did she expect was going to happen? Really? As I say, this is all a Warren thing now. The idea as well that she was out on April 26th. Really, when you look at it, she's had 3 podcasts appearances since then. Since she left the group, since it was made public that she left the group, she's been on a couple of different podcasts. So, no, none of this makes sense in terms of the reasoning she's given, the actions she's taken. If she was out, why did she do the podcast at the end of the day? It doesn't make any sense. She can't. Well, at the end, she did say that no one could stop her from speaking. So what? She's doing this on her own. This is, again, like I said, a different faction trying to free Luke. Or is she not freeing Luke? Is she just going back to her full-time job, which is driver, because she's not a criminologist? But we'll get on to that. Yeah, so just worth pointing out here that this will affect Luke's support going forward. The group will try and cling on to it. I'm sure they'll do something big, something that'll catch attention for them. But yes, this is basically what Sandra's trying to do. Save face and see if she can keep her grift going, I think.
Next up, the damage to the case files. Now, Nicola and Gemma were with me when the damage was discovered. We'd gone to collect the case files because they were going to take them away for scanning, and discovered that there had been water ingress and bottoms of some of the boxes were wet. So all three of us discovered that damage on the same day. But the claim is that I am responsible for or caused the damage to the case papers. Now, first up, I had those papers in my possession between 2009 and April 2022. Obviously there were chunks of time, so there was time when they were at the commission, there was time where they were at Mojo, but I had them all the rest of the time. And I can prove up until early 2021 that those papers were undamaged because the film people needed access to them for the documentary. So I'd looked after them for all that time and they were completely undamaged. They went into storage in April 2022 because I was not going to be in Scotland. There was a trusted supporter was supposed to pick them up in the summer of 2022 for scanning, but that didn't happen. So maybe if it had, they wouldn't have ended up being damaged. But like I said, I can prove up until 2021 these papers were undamaged. But
Sandra Leans goes on to play more pity party there, because with most of these excuses, because that's what they are, it's a case of grab some cheese because here comes the fucking wine. She does make out that it's a police tactic that's used by the campaign to badmouth her in terms of the damage to the case files. She says that obviously up until 2001 she has evidence of the fact that there was no damage to the case files, but in 2022 the case files went into storage. Now, she does say how a loyal supporter was to get them and scan them. Now, the loyal supporter didn't, and I believe that's because of a health concern. So, was there no plan B? There was no plan B to the point that when did those actual files get taken out of storage then, said storage? That would have been January 2024. So those files lay in storage for how long? And she has the audacity to say that it wasn't her fault. I mean, at the end of the day, if you were left in charge of case files which you had kept in storage for a year and a half, which had then been damaged, whose fault is that? At the end, you must have had a plan B. All these people around you, you could have said, well, somebody else go and get it please, because we need it done. But it sat for a year and a half. And then, quelle surprise, there was a problem with the files. How absolutely fucking amateur is that? That is ridiculous, to then try and shift blame onto other people for not doing stuff when those files have stayed in there for over a year and a half, a year and a bit, whatever. 6 months is too much. Why was there not a plan B? Why did someone not else to step in and get them to pick them up for you? Why not? It's absolutely ridiculous. This idea of shifting blame after the fact, and then saying, about the police tactics and all the rest of it. It's just to add to a conspiracy, man. This is absolute bullshit. So there's a couple of more things to cover just before we do a wrap up. I won't go through everything. I will say that Sandra Leans does address another couple of points. Things like the fundraising, which, goddamn, I'm sick of talking about. We've learnt, obviously, that the independent auditor was Gemma's mum, very independent. Again, that was all okayed by Sandra, so the shiftiness of that does not get taken away from her. She was involved in it, so she can try and back away from it as much as she wants, but still. And there's still, she did, as I say, when it came to fundraising, she did say obviously it was taken over at different times, but she didn't explain what happened to any money still, so who knows. Anyway, still explain where all the donations for books and everything was to go and how much was raised, but they bought a couple of scanners and a PA system, guys, so that'll probably cover it, won't it? But yeah, so there's a couple of other bits like that she'll talk about, but there are, as I say, 2 more points that I want to cover in this before we wrap up. And the first one is, I got a little name drop, didn't I? I got a little mention. So let's listen to what Sandra said about it, and then I'll have a little talk about it myself and share my opinion, shall I?
Well, if you've got a 12-year stretch, he didn't just steal a packet of Watsits, did he? And I found this quite disconcerting. This guy has access to all these private messages. What else did he have access to? There's the film that they took. Did he know how to find me, where I am? Who is he? Where is he? Now, only 4 people had access to those messages, and that's Nicola, Gemma, Rachel, and Fiona. Somebody was giving this James Brockett these messages to try and cause trouble. I don't know if James Brockett exists, but if he doesn't, what kind of sick mind would come up with something like that to terrorise a woman living on her own? What is wrong with people? And I don't know to this day if he's real or not. I have no idea. But these messages were getting picked up by other posters and repeated, and caused one poster to say, "That's Sandra Leans trying to blacken my name." Well, first up, I did not, the message in question, I did not name anybody. Secondly, it was a private message. It was never intended to be in the public domain. But this is how they were being used now that they were out there. And then finally, a letter claimed to be a physical letter that Scott Forbes had sent to Luke, found its way to someone who runs a podcast called What They Found. And that podcast has been absolutely scathing against the campaign from day one. And again, the 4 people that I mentioned earlier are the most likely to have had access to pick up that, or to receive that physical letter from Luke and pass it on to this podcaster. Talk about sleeping with the enemy. Really?
So, a couple of quick points. Firstly, for someone who believes in miscarriage of justice, you aren't half judgmental, Sandra. The thing I just want to point out here as well, that although she talks about how these messages were private, and, you know, they weren't meant to be for the public, that doesn't change the fucking content in them. That doesn't change what you said about people, about Scott, about other supporters, and about everything else. Just because you got caught out and people got to read them, it doesn't change what's in it. So the idea that, oh, these weren't meant for public consumption, just that's a moot point. Who gives a fuck? At the end of the day, they go out there, people read them, and now they know what you actually think. So just own it. Say it with your chest. You know what I mean? Right? Just say it with your full chest. You feel me? You feel me?
Do you feel him, sir?
But even then, right, let's kind of look at this as a whole. Although the messages weren't, the contents weren't argued with, neither was the contents of the letter, was it? When Scott admitted that he wasn't Luke's lawyer. Sandra didn't argue with that either, did she? She didn't say anything was false. She didn't say anything was a lie. Yes, true Sandra there in those letters. True Scott in that letter, sorry. True Sandra in the messages. Another couple of quick things as well. I kind of see where she's coming from in terms of, you know, what kind of sick mind would think that. The sick mind that you put into your group, into your trust, into your circle. All the people that you had doing things for you, and the people that you were, and what was it, Sandra's Angels they were called. That's who might have done it. But at the end of the day, we'll just have to paint them in a bad light now and try and distance yourself from the fact that this was all created by you. And one other thing as well, very quickly. You have all this fear and all this kind of cry for help in terms of your own safety, and you have made a history of targeting other people with the sly way that you deal with things, the claims that you've put out, and everything that you've done for the last, however, 20 odd years. So now you've no smoke for Scott anymore, and the fact that he was stalking people. Now you're worried about people stalking you. You don't see where all this madness has crept in. And it's quite sad to think that you thought you could grift along and nothing would come back to bite you in the ass. Now, I'm not a big believer in karma. I don't believe that's something that exists. But at the end of the day, you might have more empathy now for the people that you've targeted with your books and your podcasts and your lies and the group that you built full of attack dogs and people to do your own bidding when they all turned on you. I'll be absolutely honest, I don't think Fiona should have filmed stuff and all the rest of it. But in terms of sympathy, I mean, there's an age-old saying, you reap what you sow. Well, get fucking sowing, man. And I know that might sound unnecessarily cruel, and I suppose it is to a certain extent, but at the end of the day, where's the smoke for Scott? Why are you not coming out and saying Scott shouldn't have done this? It's everyone else's fault, isn't it? No one else does anything right, and it's always their fault that when everything goes wrong, Sandra, isn't it? The case files, the releasing stuff that shouldn't be released, Scott stalking people, all the rest of it. It's always everyone else, isn't it? Funny that. Fucking funny that. I did like the name drop though. It's a big change from the Fly Fifer when you apparently couldn't remember who I was. So I appreciate that. Scathing of the campaign as well. I mean, if the campaign was run legitimately, maybe I wouldn't have been. But it wasn't. It was run by two grifters who were liars, who lied about their qualifications, which we'll get onto, and who lied about a murder victim's family so they could make some money and get famous, get a wee bit infamy online. So I was scathing of you, Sandra, and I think my scathing nature has been proven right by the amount of lies that I've uncovered by you, by the falsehoods, even down to other people starting to discover your lies with things like the transcripts. Scathing? No, I was critical. I think that's probably a better word. And I was proven right, wasn't I? Because everyone knows you're a fucking liar. And you lied to everybody about everything. And more of it's coming out. So enjoy that. I'm sure we can get another update. Oh no, you're out. Oh no, you're not out because you've done podcasts whilst you were out. None of it makes any sense because you can't keep up with your own lies. Just like your old attack dog Scott there.
So the easy one, the first one, is really, really, really easy. It's the one where people claim that I'm not a criminologist and my degree's in philosophy. It's a shame. They think because Doctor of Philosophy's got the word philosophy in it, it must mean that's what my degree was. This. It's very sad. But this one's easy because you can Google it, right? I did my PhD at the University of Stirling in what was then the Department of Criminology. Both of my supervisors are professors of criminology. My chief examiner is a very well-known professor of... Google it, it's there. So the people that are lying about this are knowingly lying about it. At the same time, as I was doing my PhD, I did a specialist paralegal qualification in criminal law. Can't remember if it was Strathclyde University or Glasgow University, one of the two. So I also have that. So I'm completely unqualified for this work, obviously.
So I want to kind of start off with Sandra's last comment there, saying that she was completely unqualified for this line of work. What line of work, Sandra? You're a part-time van driver. You're not a criminologist. You're a person that wrote a book about some crimes that were apparently miscarriages of justice. Two of them actually admitted it after the fact. One of them committed suicide. You are a self-published author who has failed to get any of the cases that she's apparently highlighting forward at all and done anything with them because you're not a criminologist. Now, in case you're wondering, the qualification that you had in the paralegal qualifications from Strathclyde, it's on your LinkedIn actually. And And another thing that's on your LinkedIn is the PhD in philosophy. Now, very quickly, just quickly, let's humour it. The PhD in philosophy relates to wrongful convictions. The actual, the way it's worded, so to speak, is that the PhD in philosophy is claimed wrongful convictions of factually innocent individuals. There's a whole confusing thing when it comes to this. Let's talk about the confusion and then clear it up right at the end with a simple sentence. But let's talk about the confusion. So, claimed wrongful convictions of factually innocent individuals under a doctor of philosophy. Now, that isn't really criminology. At the end of the day, what is criminology? Criminology is the scientific study of the non-legal aspects of crime and delinquency, including its causes, correction, and prevention from the viewpoints of such diverse disciplines as anthropology, biology, psychology and psychiatry, economics, sociology and statistics. No philosophy in there. Odd. So not even related to anything we can see in there. And again, the vague nature of the wrongful convictions aspect of the qualification, based off the thesis that she done, well, a lot of it was in her book, actually. The wrongful convictions, one of which is, as I say, committed suicide, two of which admitted guilt. However, what was Sandra's advice again?
Google it. It's there.
So let's Google it. Let's do that. And if we have a quick look, we will see that Stirling University say, as philosophy research here, so Stirling's philosophy, sorry, I'm just putting this stuff there that's not there. Stirling's philosophy division has been central to the philosophical research in Scotland and in the UK since the university's foundation in 1967. Our research centres on three main clusters: legal, moral and political philosophy, mind and knowledge and philosophy of logic and language, including history of analytic philosophy. Because that brings in what Sandra Leans was talking about in terms of wrongful convictions, doesn't it? That covers that. But it doesn't make it criminology. It doesn't. Because as we can see, criminology is the scientific study of the non-legal aspects of crime and delinquency, including its causes, correction and prevention. So that doesn't include the wrongful conviction, does it? No, because that's not what criminologists do. Criminologists do not do that. What Sandra's qualifications are to make her qualified enough to look like she's professional with what she's doing with Luke Mitchell. That and her book, which one of them isn't even in print anymore, for a number of reasons. One of which being it was full of shit. So it doesn't. But the simple sentence, as I say, right? Which, well, it's not really a simple sentence. I suppose it's more of a question. If you left college or university with a degree that states that your qualification is in something else, would you accept it? Because this is philosophy. It doesn't say criminology. As for hanging around with all different criminologists, I mean, that doesn't make you a criminologist, essentially.
Sticking feathers up your butt does not make you a chicken.
That's just ridiculous. The thing as well with LinkedIn is that it can all be edited by whoever makes it, obviously. That's why Forbes has got one. In fact, I'm sure his one just said law at one point. It's law. So, sidetracked. Again, your PhD states that it's in philosophy because it's in philosophy. If it was in criminology, then that's what I've stated. You have no qualifications in criminology. None. You're not qualified to be a criminologist. That's what I stated. That's what's going on. That's philosophy. I mean, How more simple can you make this? How more simple can you make this? Please, someone. But at the end of the day, it's still about the victimhood, of Sandra Lean. Everyone's this witch hunt. Everyone's out to get her. Just show people. Why are you asking people? And the thing is, you're asking a bunch of people who are listening to you to Google it. Do you have any faith that any of them are going to take time to Google anything, considering we're at this point and they still haven't done the slightest bit of Googling to realise that Scott Forbes wasn't a lawyer? That's the people that you're asking to Google. They're not looking into stuff. And again, this isn't a besmirching of them, because a lot of them are going to consume their content in different ways, whether it maybe be through Facebook, TikTok, maybe videos on YouTube. That's going to be where their interaction ends. So even the stuff that you've said that has been proven wrong, again, that's why your first video, then can you put that in the head? They don't come back to that. There's very few people that'll then look further into that. That's why you managed to get away with this for so long. But take Sandra's advice, guys. Google it. Go and Google the difference between philosophy and criminology. Look into it. She's not a criminologist. Stand by it. Just because she wrote a book and she's been heading a campaign what's apparently a miscarriage of justice, then it doesn't make her a criminologist. One last point, and I want to take a second to apologise for any jarring changes in audio, but my mic decided it had enough. So we do have a plan B, thankfully, but apologies for the difference in audio here for the end of it. So, as I say, there's one more point from Sandra Lean that I want to play here because I think it's the biggest hypocrisy. I'll see you on the other side, we can talk about it, and then we'll do a quick wrap up and finish this all off. So, back to Sandra Lean one more time.
But the last one is, or are these claims that I've refused to hand over documentation that I'm now holding illegally. I gave them everything except my own work, which they have no right to. But they kind of need to make their minds up, don't they? Because either I did nothing, and therefore there is nothing to hand over, or I did the work that I've said I've done, and now they want to get rid of me and to rubbish me, but reap the benefits of the work I've done. So which is it? They've got everything they were entitled to. They've got all the official case papers that were in my possession. They've got all the stuff that they asked for. They are not getting my personal work, especially given that they've already put stuff out into the public domain that should never have been there. They don't know what they're doing with it, so they're not getting it.
So where does the hypocrisy lie in this one? It's quite simple, really. Sandra is saying that she will not supply any of the work that she's done in aid of having Luke freed. Now, the reason she gives, obviously, is because they can't be trusted. They'll post stuff that they're not supposed to. So let's circle back round and ask where that smoke is for Scott, Sandra. We all know Scott's been sharing information that he shouldn't have been, and he's also been making up some more things. Up in Front Street here, this video took a lot longer than I wanted to edit, and during it, some other things have happened, which I will be making another video on. Scott, as always, is permanently online, can't shut his face, and has ran his mouth some more and done some other things, which we'll get into on the next video. That will all be about Scott and the campaign. There will be no Sandra in that one because unfortunately Sandra is out.
It's very sad.
So if we go, as I say, through this, then Sandra Lean won't give her work out, but at the end of the day, like she says, she does support Luke Mitchell's innocence. She believes that one day he'll be free. She hopes that'll happen. She's not willing to give him the stuff that she has done, which seems like a bit of a strange thing, does it not? Especially if she's out. What purpose does she have for it? It kind of could come across as the fact that it doesn't exist, you know, and that's why she's not given any. She does say she has it and she can prove it, but she's not willing to share it. So how she's going to prove it, who the fuck knows? But the idea that she's looking still at the idea that Luke Mitchell is innocent and he's going to get out, but she's not willing to help the campaign. Now, why is she not willing to help the campaign? Like I'd say, because they share things they shouldn't. Well, fair enough. We'll get into that in the next video, actually. But again, as I say, she's no smoke for Scott or anybody else doing the same thing. And the biggest thing is, at the end of the day, why would she not want to help Luke? Why would she punish Luke for something that people like Gemma and Fiona and Nicola are doing? Because it's all childish infighting, and there's nothing real about any of this. This is a bunch of amateurs arguing online about all of it and telling lies in between, getting called out, getting found out, and then having nowhere to go but blame each other. The idea that Sandra is still pro Luke Mitchell but is not willing to help by handing over all this great work that she's done is absolutely fucking ridiculous. And it goes to the same with Scott Forbes. Scott Forbes will shout about all the great work he's done and what he achieved whilst he was a part of Luke's legal team. Remember, the campaign voted him the fact that he wasn't a part of the team at all. But there's nothing there. There's no evidence of what work's been done other than what Scott runs his mouth with. And that is worth, well, exactly what it is. It's just him running his mouth. It's just gossip. So, and fakery. But again, that's for the next video. So, what do you guys think? Let's do a quick wrap up here. What do you guys think? Obviously, the last one there is probably one of the most important. Sandra saying that she's not willing to hand over any of the work that she'd done for Luke, but she still believes in his campaign. She doesn't want to detract from it, but she's just chucked every single one of them under the bus. And one thing I would point out as well, that up until this point, Gemma was never known by her real name. She had a pseudonym, and Sandra used it all the time, even in public. I think the Glasgow protest, sorry, I forgot the word there, that was one where she actually went to say Gemma. She Jim Freddie. So she's always tried to keep her secret. There's a reason for that. That was because of her prior relationship with Luke Mitchell. At the end of the day, Sandra was always pulling the wool over everyone's eyes when it came to this shit as well. And she's not said anything about that. Why did she protect her? This is all this infighting and now turning on each other. Like I said months ago, this was all going to happen. This Lord of the Flies shit. And here we are. Anyway, what do you guys think of all that? I do want to finish this wrap up by asking you guys to comment below if there's anything that I missed that you thought was important from Sandra's update. And I'll say as well, it's probably worth noting that this wasn't a live. This was a recorded, badly edited video, simply for the fact that if it was a live, like she always done up to this point, there would have been questions in the chat that she would have had to answer or ignore. And she can't be seen to ignore them, but she can't answer them. So she recorded what looks like a YouTube apology video stroke hostage video and put that up to defend herself so she could avoid questions, and all she gets is plaudits in her comments. Absolutely ridiculous. Mind you, the last time that she got any kind of blowback in her comments, she just turned the comments off, saying that it was because they had doxed her previous address and she worried for the people that lived there. Like people were going to go and start harassing them. Absolute bollocks excuse. It was because people had said within the comments, which I read, Sandra, that you were friends with Qualification Mitchell before any of this happened, because she used to come into your little shop to buy your wee crystals, because she was a wee witchy like you are. Aye. That's all going to come out eventually as well. You know that's all going to be proved, because someone's going to step forward with some kind of evidence or some kind of experience of them knowing that the two of you were friends. So this the whole idea that she posted a letter through the door and Sandra became a part of the case. Fucking bollocks. So, if there's anything I missed, put it down below. One thing I do want to give a shout out to is recently Fellowship done a video on cults, which, here's a little snippet.
What is a cult? According to study.com, the word cult is defined as a system or group of people who practice excessive devotion to a figure, object, or belief system, typically following a charismatic leader. Some of the defining characteristics of a cult can include unquestioning devotion to the leader, isolation of members, the idea that the leader is the only source of truth and anyone else who says otherwise is a liar, abuse of members, persecution and public smearing of those who would choose to leave, dangerous behaviours, and financial secrecy, among various others. People who are in a cult generally don't understand that they are in a cult. The social media campaign for Luke Mitchell, convicted in 2004 of killing his girlfriend in 2003, is based on the belief that he is the victim of a miscarriage of justice. But is his campaign also a cult? Let's have a look at the evidence.
So please, I'll put the link in the description below. It's done really well. It's got quite a good response, and it's a very well made video, and it's well worth your time as well. And if you have a wee look around the channel, you'll see some more videos that relate to this. A new one that's came out there with a wee Freedom of Information Act, which we'll go into a wee bit more depth in the next video. But maybe if you want to have a quick wee look there, there's a wee 3-minute video just to get yourself up to speed as well, in case you're not brain broken and on Twitter like everyone else is. So yes, thank you very much for listening to this video. As we always say, subscribe if you want to keep up with this stuff. Please do give us a little sarcastic thumbs up as well. Remember, hit it once, hit it twice, hit it a third time, and we know it's sarcastic. Leave a little comment, but don't be a Derek. And I will see you soon, very soon. So what we'll do is we'll quickly have a wee play out here for Sandra, but before we do that, because I won't see you again, I'll just tell you right now to enjoy the rest of your day.
So, I won't be there now when that happens. And it will happen eventually, but I won't be part of it. I wish everybody involved in taking the case forward all the very, very, very best. Do your best for both of them. Stop this nonsense and do your best for the two of them. Two kids who never got justice. We're 21 years down the line, we don't have time to waste. To everybody who's been supportive to me personally, thank you for all your kindness and all your encouragement. But it's time for me to move to new pastures. Hopefully, I'll see some of you along the way, but this will be my last word on these matters. So, take care. Bye. It's very sad.